Welcome. Glad to have you here. If you're just tuning in, we're going to get into some more Jasmy Qnt. Max is doing it again. Yep, I'm doing it again. And this time, I really, truly want to thank Quant Papa, who said, hey, check this out, Max. This will help trump some of the, speculations that some people say that there is no IoT connection. Yeah, let's give you some of that. So if this is your thing, QNT and Jasmy, or one or the other, or even if it isn't, you're not on board for it, I want to open your eyes to something you may have never been aware of. And again, thank you to the one and only Mr. Quant Papa. So here basically is, and what do you see here? Well, you see this whole system, all right? And I want to state this for the record. Remember how we did the whole thing of Tadashi Morita? And we're talking about these DC microgrids and, his exclusive patents. I mean, come on, man. This guy is a Jasmy superstar. He's so well respected in Japan. Literally, guys pretty much bow to this guy. I mean, he's just so revered over there. You may not see it over here in the United States and so on, but over in Japan, yeah, he's considered a big deal. Now, we have referenced the whole thing of IEEE. Look at what it says on the top right. So I'm going to get into some of this stuff. So Quant Papa got this all put together and so on. On the far left, you see this whole thing of an open standards, open protocol, DLT, blockchain interoperability labs. We talk about Jasmy Labs, right? Vertical industry application input, use cases, projects, system of systems, business process mapping. But look at the top right, IEEE, right? We have referenced this 2 or 3 times when it came to Mr. Morita. And if you've never seen any of these videos, again, go to the video section on Maximus Crypto and just simply type in Jasmy or type in Morita, and it'll immediately come up for you. Now, IEEE DLT / blockchain standards. Now, we talk about standards, especially when it comes to Quant Network, Gilbert Verdian, ISO TC 307, right? But look what it's mentioned here, how it breaks it down. Those standards to technical requirements, architectural frameworks. We talk about DFFT, data free flow with trust. How about DLT interoperability labs? You have IEEE, ICAP, some of the others. What are those? Conformity, assessment, certification program. Remember how we talked about the whole thing with Ripple, right? This is not the whole thing of a Ripple segment. Ripple's partner, same with Jasmy, is the CARE project, right? So what about interoperability through APIs for healthcare? Yeah, open APIs. You have healthcare, you have supply chain, you have telecom, energy. But what about specifically when it comes to privacy? Because Jasmy is all about data privacy. Boom, P1, privacy. What about some of the stuff that Gilbert Verdian is talking about when it comes to, performance, security, scalability, future-proof? Some of that right there too. All right. What's originally cited here? The Blockchain Engineering Council, the BEC, also IEEE. So I thought I'd throw that in there. Check this out for a second. It's going to get better. What's the next step for blockchain interoperability, connecting the dispersed blockchains? Well, back in the early days of the internet, this is where Mr. Gilbert Verdian was talking about your walled silos. Can I give you a representation of that? Yeah. Draw your attention to the top left of your screen. Literally, the early days of the internet were just like he was talking about. Those walled silos. You have your internet in one area, but intranet A would have been your AOLs. Intranet B would have been your CompuServes. Intranet C would have been, I don't know, your Junos or whatever, right? Intranet D would have been a guy that's on, for instance, DSL. I remember when I first heard about broadband internet, it was DSL. It's a heck of a lot better than my garbage 28.8K modem. I never even had 56K. Some of you guys had 56K. I would have killed for 56K. I had a 28.8K modem. It was so... I'm sure some of you guys remember that. But some of those are some examples. How did it go from 2018 with a blockchain fragmented ecosystem, the introductions of just some of the side chains and so on. Well, you got, for instance, Ethereum, permissionless mainnet, other permissionless networks. How did it go to the interchain networks, right? So we can give you examples all day long, but again, keep in mind how it all came together. IEEE, and also the whole thing of the Blockchain Engineering Council. Show you some more about this. Check this out for size. So you guys have been wanting to have proof, and I, of course, try to give you as much proof as I can, connecting the dots. How would you like to have an actual diagram in regards to like Qnt, Jasmy, for instance? Blockchain DLT interoperability framework. DLT gateway interconnects multi-cloud. That's interesting, because when we talk about multi-cloud and multi-ledger, but especially multi-cloud. But Jasmy, how they have this scaling solution with Polkadot. Now we know that Polkadot's layer 0, but for what? The Web3 cloud solution. So there's that. How about interconnecting, to blockchains with legacy systems? We could go back with the whole thing with, for instance, QNT with the overledger. How about interconnecting blockchains to augmented and edge intelligence? Am I too far off on this? Have I not grabbed your attention? What does Jasmy always talk about all the time? Edge computing. Oh, I see where Max is going with this. I hope so. Because what is also referenced on the right side in parentheses? AI? Oh, yeah, I do see where Max is going. ML, IoT. You guys, sometimes some people feel as though like I don't listen to comments. You better believe I do. Or how about some of the comments you guys leave in the recorded section of the videos? I do pay attention to that. Quant Papa apparently pays attention to that. Thank you, Quant Papa, if you're watching or you're asleep or wherever you are. So how about the support for single and multi-ledger API? Obviously Quant. So am I too far off with some of this? Not really, but can I give you more? Of course. Support for multi-client interfaces and dApps. What are we looking to accomplish when it comes to the super wallet? Think about it, guys. Is it rocket science? No, it's not. So you have distributed applications, those dApps. You have the web, model, UI, user interface, other operating systems. Think about some of those other operating systems. What about the API layer with Quant? Well, there's some examples here. DLT Ledger 1, Amazon Web Services Cloud, Google Cloud, Azure Cloud. That's interesting. Didn't we give you guys examples on that previous deep dive of optimism, right? But what about the cloud? We gave you all three of those exact examples. So is it starting to make sense? How about a DLT gateway interface, interoperability, ledger, and so on? But then taking that, for instance, to a DLT ledger 2. Well, yeah. Some of those nodes from Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Azure. But now you even have an on-premise interoperability connection. And then watch what happens when we go over to the right side. Now, if you hold Jasmy, I would pay attention to this, because what you'll see here is a DLT gateway on that top area, layer, if you want to call it that. What do you have? Yeah, you have freaking interoperability through the AI and IoT. Oh, I always thought that there was never any interoperability with that. I always thought Max would only show other connections with like Hyperledger and so on. Right, I'm with you. Well, can Max talk about that again? You better believe I can. Look what's referenced. Bottom part. Boom. Boil it, mash it, stick in the stew. Hyperledger, once again. Well, Max, Ethereum, you have the whole thing of Ethereum. I mean, Quant is just another ERC20 token. So much more than ERC20 token. The mainnet for Quant goes down. Basically, you can get what? You can get you can have, you can switch it to the XRPL. Speaking of which, let's pull that up for a second, just in case you missed it the other day. So for all the naysayers, we're basically saying that Quant, if they ever have a crap moment with Ethereum, and they can't go quickly over to something else like the XRPL, I want you to watch this, because some people seen it, some people haven't. Hey, that's okay. And at the end of the day, I'm just presenting you guys information. None of it is ever financial advice. So let's jump into this for a second. You're going to see here something that will, let's face it, maybe open your eyes. Maybe you just don't care. I don't know. But here it is. Qnt's Overledger demo, switching to the XRPL. Let's play this for you. Please smash that like. Here we go.
Qnt's demo application showcases Overledger's API and provides an example of how to build an application with the client-side and server-side using Overledger 2.0. Overledger 2.0 uses OAuth 2 to authenticate API requests. This token will be used in the authorization header of your API calls to Overledger. The demo application showcases the single transaction and linked transaction features, as well as enabling the creation of subscriptions, which receive status updates about transactions submitted to a DLT via a callback URL. For single transactions, first select a DLT, enter an origin ID, a destination ID, and a destination amount. Once done, click Create. The demo app will show an API output screen to demonstrate the steps that takes place each time an API call is made to Overledger. The API output screen has been slowed down for viewing. Accepting the DLT transaction fee will initiate the signing of the transaction and then execute the transaction through Overledger. The details of the transaction can then be viewed and subscribed to receive status updates to the callback URL. Subscribing to the transaction, Overledger will return a subscription ID, where clicking on transaction details will call the MDAP transaction API to retrieve status updates from Overledger, and clicking on full details will search the DLT for the transaction information. For linked transactions, select the DLT that the initial transaction will be on, and which DLT will have the audit of the transaction. The initial transaction will follow the same flow as the single transaction, and once it has been executed and subscribed to, transaction updates will appear in the subscriptions page. Once the transaction is successful, an audit button will appear on the subscriptions page that will initiate the audit transaction creation flow. On the subscription page, we can also unsubscribe from receiving updates if we wish.
All right, so obviously there's that example, and what a great example. I want to jump back into this for a second, but before I do, actually, just think about that for a second. They're, of course, going to show the big players, the blue chips, your XRPs, and so on. But on the other example we gave you beforehand, in regards to Overledger and so on, the interoperability, it does reference the whole thing of, for example, Ethereum. It mentions, for instance, Edge. It mentions AI, IoT. So are we so oblivious to the notion that it wouldn't be able to do other ones that are not part of, like, for instance, the top 20? Yeah, of course we can. Hence why Qnt has that reputation of being able to allow for interoperability of what, guys? Hundreds of other blockchains. It's literally part of their reputation. So I thought I'd give you guys that example once again, because people have requested that. Max, you always talk about it. Can you show it? Boom. There you go. Now, going to jump into some more of what we have, right? Because it's good stuff, all right? So we were on, I guess you could say, this third part, and it's just a nice visual to get into. So what we're talking about here, and again, let me try to pull this up for a second, all right, is, again, some of the extended details of it all. And basically speaking, I mean, here you have it, DLT, far right side, all right? And then another thing I want to mention is never forget the whole thing in regards to APIs with Oracle. Notice what it mentions here, DLT gateway, ERP/Oracle. Some people have said to me, well, the Oracle thing, that's not a real thing. They don't really go with Overledger. The heck they don't. Look more into it, all right? But the bottom line is interoperability from top to bottom, and even with the ones you had no idea about, for AI and especially IoT. Again, Qnt Papa did a great job of showing just that. It's like some people want proof. My opinion is like, wow, when you look more into it, you'll uncover some things that you may not have ever been aware of. All right. And again, of course, he highlighted again, and we showed that, right? IoT, plain as day, IoT. Okay. How about this part? DLT gateway, interledger. That was one of the things I was going to say for Monday, but we'll inject that as well. People were asking about that whole thing. All right. So there is that. So again, from the video to the visualization, boom, there you go. I want to share this as well. Okay. And then on this particular one, I guess I'll change the icon for a second because, it's kind of like a little back and forth thing. So on this one, where's some of the key takeaways? Well, for one, it says blockchain DLT silos. Again, that example we gave earlier about the early days of the internet. And multi-chain ledger permission and permissionless technologies create what they call a Tower of Babel effect. Now, if you are a person that's read the Bible or not, right? Maybe at some point you heard about the Tower of Babel. It's supposed to be that moment of time before the whole thing came down and God destroyed the Tower of Babel, and Nimrod was an idiot he was trying to kill God, basically. What a fool. But before that, supposedly everybody was able to speak the same language. And then, Nimrod shot towards the cloud, and now we speak all sorts of different languages, right? But the point is that reference, Tower of Babel effect, similar to the early days of the internet networks and protocols, right? Things weren't talking to each other. Walled silos. There are three main categories when designing DLTs: operational, enterprise, IT, and customer facing, each one with distinct set of functional requirements. Look at this for a second. Multi-cloud, multi-ledger, hence why we reference the whole thing of what Jasmy's doing with this new Web3 cloud solution with Polkadot. Interoperability is the first infrastructure layer to be considered. Not the second, the third, fourth, and so on, but the first. It has to be the first. When you think of Polkadot with a layer 0, that is the first. So is that too Greek for you? I don't think so. DLT gateways that are highlighted here can interconnect multi-blockchain ledgers and legacy IT, including new AI, ML, and IoT solutions. So there is that Jasmy connection. How about carrier, telecom grade design? Needs redundant, scalable. You guys are always talking about scalability, secure and high performance blockchain networks. Thank God that Jasmy chose to stick to the white paper instead of giving into the FUD of, let's face it, sad to say, some content creators are like, I don't like the idea of going to a new migration. Do you not like the idea of scalability? Because that's going to be a future problem. Without scalability, we'll have future problems. And then what happens? Then you think Jasmy's bad now because you saw the volatility of where it was originally released, and that was a bad release. No kidding. Yes, bad release. Because there's only about, like Mike Cornwell pointed out, about 1.5 billion tokens, guys. Look where we're at now, a 98% in circulation. Big difference. And with that big difference, we do need to stick to the roadmap. We do need to stick to that white paper. Hence why we always say DYOR. Some people don't even read the white papers. Let's just be real about that. But the bottom line is this: IoT solutions, interoperability, DLT gateways. Last part. Back to Merida. Do you see how I'm doing that? So Tadashi Merida is the unsung hero when it comes to the technical side of Jasmy. We know that. We did about roughly 3, maybe 4 videos. I guess technically this might be the 4th or 5th. But look at the bottom of your screen. Blockchain DLT interoperability is very important for global adoption of blockchain, and the IEEE standards will address this topic. Oh, wow. I didn't realize, you may be thinking, I'm going to say maybe you say this, whoever's watching this. Some people don't realize the significance of Merida. He is that key player for interoperability. But why is he that key player for interoperability when it comes to Jasmy and QNT? Because just like Gilbert Verdian, and don't overthink this, guys. Don't overthink it at all. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. All you got to do is take more of that deeper dive. Do it with me. That's why we call these shows DYOR. Do your own research. Because when you look more into it, it's guys who are part of the bigger picture who've created standards. Gilbert Verdian, the ISO TC 307 standard, the Quant Network standard. How about Merida? Yes, with IEEE standards. What's Merida recently done not only in the past, but even in the present? He has some pending patents for what? Some of those IEEE standards. So now do you understand a little bit how this all comes together? You know how much criticism I get sometimes when people point this out to me? Max, you're full of crap. All you're pointing out is some things. There's no confirmation. What about that for size? And we've been talking about this for a while. You know, it's not that I'm trying to separate myself from other content creators. I mean, in a way I am. But I do try to get more into the deeper dive things when I read more about it. Again, guys, read more about it. It's right in front of you if you choose to look more into it. And last I checked, is this such a bad thing to want to look more into Jasmy and Qnt? I mean, for Jasmy to even be mentioned in the same breath of Qnt sounds like cuckoo talk, right? Sounds absolutely like, Brad Garlinghouse would say, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But when you look more into it, it's like, you know what? That Max guy, he is kind of onto something there. Yeah, you better believe I am, and I'm not going to stop talking about it. Now, getting more into this, I want to jump into this because we did talk about standards. Look what's cited here. Level of technology and business disruption. Remember how I've been talking about the whole thing of Jasmy being an industry disruptor? I had a comment earlier today, and this is a good comment, not a bad comment. This guy, I think he's a newcomer. He said, Max, I think his name is Joey, so shout out to him. He said, Max, I want to know about this whole thing of, the use case of Jasmy. And I said, well, Jasmy stands out when it comes to data democratization, of course. But what exactly does that mean? It means being an industry disruptor. We talk about GAFA, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple. And we talk about the whole thing of, that's a centralized data marketplace. Well, how about Jasmy being the kryptonite to that? No pun intended. That's a good expression. Kryptonite, right? Being the kryptonite, literally, because they are a disruptor, right? And last we checked, kryptonite disrupts Superman, the super wall. It's kind of funny how they came up with all these names, right? And it's like, yeah, Jasmy is a decentralized data marketplace. It's disrupting a multi-billion-dollar industry. How much is GAFA worth? I'm gonna type that in real quick. I think I looked this up a different way. All right, so here it is. This is a report from last year because it's an annual report. Okay, so basically speaking, GAFA comes to that valuation of 2.307 trillion as of last year. My God, really? Yeah, really. And just in case you can't see it, boom, there you go. Look at that for a second, guys. Look at that for a second. I'll even highlight it for you again. Look at that. That's crazy. All right. Well, so sorry. Apple fell short of Apple's valuation. So totaling 2.30. So not quite 3. Come on. It's just, So safely say 2.306 trillion. I mean, my goodness. That's insane. We talk about, the overall crypto market. We talk about, for instance, BlackRock. They start tokenizing assets. Excuse me. I did say it the right way. It might not sound like that. But tokenizing assets and how they have 10 trillion apparently. If they just bring in 10% of that to the overall crypto market, you'd have double the market valuation of our overall crypto market. What about Jasmy to disrupt a percentage of what you saw for GAFA? I mean, this is where I just don't think the FUDders understand this stuff because they don't look into it. They look at the same old chart, same reference, Jasmy scam, and that's it. Right, that's it, but it's not really it. And check it out for yourself a little bit more. So I'm going to take you to this next part. And again, I think it's worth mentioning at least. Maybe some people don't feel like it is, but I feel like it is, and I'll always point it out. So we're going to take you to this right here, back to what we're sharing. So this whole thing of going towards a secure, high-performance DLT blockchain, Web3. Again, guys, what we've been talking about with Jasmy, Going over to that Web3 cloud solution, you have TP2S, enterprise grade interchain sidechain. Remember, David Schwartz was talking about how the significance of EVMs. But look what it says here. 2008 cryptocurrency, like it says Bitcoin, for instance, or actually that would be 2009. It's not around 2008. Bitcoin stood out. What do you have about 2013 to present? Cryptocurrency programmable smart contracts. For instance, some of these other things, like Corda, Ethereum, Hyperledger, EOS, programmable blockchain, fragmented technologies, no standards. Crypto frenzy, like starting off the Wild West. Remember what happened back in 2020 and 2021 and so on. All right. So always remember that. No standards. But with Quant, ISO TC 307, that standard was created in 2015 and was realized 2016. So you go further into this, 2019 to present. You have, for instance, high secure client peer-to-peer encrypted protocols. Yeah, you saw some of your ripples come out of, between 2018 and present. You saw some, XRP was XRP back in 2018, I believe. May have been before that, give or take. But you see some of that high secure peer-to-peer encrypted protocols, trusted environments, scalable, machine microtransactions, high performance, high levels of privacy. Again, the Jasmy connection. But the key thing is compliance. What's cited here? Blockchain Engineering Council. Getting more into this. Let's pull this up for a second. Here's some of those fundamentals. Where you wear some of this stuff. Let's blow that up for you. What are some of the fundamentals and what are some of the benefits to all this? So for one, data inputs, how all the hashes come together. Can Max give an example of IoT once again? Because, you're kind of going back to the quant thing. Well, let's inject the whole Jasmy thing again, right? So on some of this, you see block 1 transactions, documents, transactions, block 2. How about block 3? IoT data, privacy, all that stuff. What does it kick it up to? Well, on block 3 transactions, it goes up to, for instance, the Merkle root. And I won't do a deep dive about that because it's a little technical and I don't want to lose you. But the block 3 header kicks it over to what? Just that, the ledgers and, distributed ledger technology. What are some of the benefits of this? Well, there's tons of benefits. Trustable, like Gilbert Verdian's outline, transparent, traceable, immutable. How many times does he talk about that? Decentralized ownership. Again, back to the whole Jasmy thing. Privacy, ownership. You choose how you want to monetize, all right? Maybe they end up being a monopoly, I don't know. But monetize. You say, hey, this is my data. If you want to sell for $5, you sell for $5, but maybe you don't. Auditable. Back to what? The quant part of things. How do we know that? Have we not been paying attention to the recent news about quant and, the whole thing of authorize, right? That was a key to smart audits. So quant stands out for what? It stands out for ISO TC 307 because of the standards. It stands out for smart contracts with QRC 20, right? Secure smart contracts, not just a smart contract, a secure smart contract. All right, Max, what about like NFT side of things? Yes, right? They can provide a solution to your Solanas, your Ethereums. How so with NFTs, Max? The QRC 721, right? Secure NFTs. So it really does all this, right? Immutable, traceable, transparent, future proof. All right, now let's kick it into this last part because this really is more of the Jasmy focus. I want to give a shout out to the one and only Level 8. Why am I sharing his particular one? Well, for one, you got to keep in mind he speaks both Japanese and English. So I kind of like being able to source people who their native tongue, they're more exposed to things that we don't see over here in the United States. And, North America, or maybe around Europe and so on, wherever you're from. He has his translation. And I also want to give a shout out to thanks to Icy Amphibian. I don't know if he's watching tonight, but Icy, sent me a DM to kind of share this with you guys. Okay. So let's get into this. There has been a request, and this should really, really make you feel good instead of just Max doing the deep dives. Because some of you guys are saying, Max, I love you, but you know what? It's not about the deep dives. When moon, when mass adoption, and I can't blame you. This is the pathway forward for just that, you guys. So please give Icy and Feeling a follow. Thank him when you see him. Level 8 as well. These guys are great proponents of research. They do it for a reason. So there has been, of course, a request to release, listen to this, guys, because I know you've been waiting for it. You could taste it. A Mac version and an Android version, and we are considering it. Blockchain smartphones are also coming. Finally. Yes, take out your old cassette player. Blast Phil Collins in the air tonight, because you can literally feel it in the air tonight when they talk about this, because we know that when it comes to mass adoption, let's face it, not everybody has a PC, right? But what does almost everybody have at this point in time? What does their kids have? They don't have the peasant class Android. I've been reminded that I'm a peasant according to Mike Cornwell, right? But everybody has iPhones. They have Androids nowadays. All our kids have it. So that's mass adoption, okay? So to have a blockchain smartphone is going to be absolute game changer, because now we're going to go from not just trying to hit some of these metrics that Jasmy's been talking about for that KPI $17 target by 2026, but now we could probably realistically get towards some of these goals, because now we're not limiting ourselves to just a few products that only appeal to a certain demographic of people. Okay, look what Mr. Kak Inuma, also said, quote, there was also a request to customize it by picking up only the necessary functions, because you don't need all the functions, but we will address that in the future. We are currently considering this. He said, in addition to this, one of the most requested requests is to release a Mac version and Android version. This is also under consideration. Who's this guy? Well, you've seen his face. He's part of the Jasmy management team. He's one of the big wigs, okay? You've seen him pictured with Kazumasa, Sato. You also seen him pictured with another guy. I forgot that guy's particular name. I mean, I know his name, but you got to keep in mind with some of these guys, it's sometimes kind of hard to remember all the names. Sato, Ando, Marita. I mean, these guys are cool, but even I myself, I'm human, right? Like sometimes I don't get them all memorized, but there's that third guy. But anyway, the point is this guy. Enter in another guy, because we do see pictures of him, and people are like, "Who is this guy?" Right? So the bottom line is, to see this in a publication, and I guess apparently this was from not that long ago, right? I don't know the specific date, but that's hella cool. That's awesome. And this is where I get excited about this. I mean, I'm not trying to hype anybody up. That's not about it. I'm just providing information just like the next guy. But when you see stuff like this, it's like, yes, this sounds really, really cool. I like this idea. Let me mute this for a second. All right. So, yeah, let's see what else we got left. I think there might be a tad bit more. There isn't. So, guys, that's going to wrap up our Jasmy/QNT coverage of the night.